I did have charges brought against me for mutiny for all the right reasons. I was in a helicopter, as always. That's how I spent my time in Vietnam. But in this helicopter, and had a new pilot who was also a new executive officer for the unit. He was a West Point graduate. He was a major. By the books. I mean, we're an aviation unit. You got 2 enlisted men and 2 officers in the aircraft. I mean, how by the book do you want to be? You know, half your crew is enlisted men, half's officers. Come on. We don't even salute. You don't do nothing. It's not even, you just talk to each other, not even yes, sir. So this guy comes in, he's done all his duty in Germany. So he came in, he was spit and polished by the books, and he's flying around Vietnam his first couple of weeks. He doesn't know where he's going. He can't read the landmarks. He's trying to navigate. And for him to navigate, he wants to get up a couple hundred feet so he can see the land, what it looks like, where the river's at. And we're trying to tell him, and he's not listening to us, that you fly at the treetop level, you know, and you go down you fly as low as you could go. Nobody sees you. But you don't hover around a couple hundred feet, you're sitting target. So he doesn't want to believe that. So he's up there 200-300 feet. Let me know that he's a boss. And we're flying over what's called a free fire zone, meaning in this area, the VC, they know the VC is there. If you get fired at or you have cause, you didn't have to call Saigon 30, 40 miles away on your radio to speak to somebody to analyze whether you could fire back. Believe it or not, that was one of the rules of engagement. If you got fired at someplace that was not a free fire zone, well, can I fire back? They're shooting at me. My gunners just got killed. The helicopter's on fire. Can I fire back? Well, hey, we'll get right back to you. So you didn't have to do it. This zone was, if there was danger, you could react because none of our troops were down on the ground. So we're going over this area where the Ho Chi Minh Trail ends. Ho Chi Minh Trail was a series of overland tunnels, trails, pathways, roads, came down from North Vietnam to the south, and they emptied by Tay Ninh, right across the Cambodian border. And we're flying in there, a place called, I think it was Hovel Woods. I think it was Hovel Woods. And he looks down the ground, I look down the ground, and we see what looks like troops marching down the road. Troops. 2 by 2. And they got a guy in the front that looks like, you know, everybody's all in black. You know, and they look like they're carrying weapons on their shoulders. There's about 30 something. And of course, this guy's, you know, Mac, you know, he's on first name basis with me already, right? Mac, get on your machine gun, get those guys. I said, sir, we don't know who they are. I was telling you to shoot those guys. And my intuition said, no, don't fire. And he says, I'm giving you a direct order to fire. If you don't follow my direct order, I'm having you court-martialed. You're looking at 20 years in Leavenworth. Now you go ahead and fire. I'll take responsibility. And I said, no, sir. It's not right. It's not what you think it is. So now he's really mad. He's yelling and screaming at me. And so he turns the aircraft around the other way for the other door gunner. And he tells the other door gunner, he says, okay, you fire. Same order. And he puts his machine gun in a locked position. And he goes, no, sir. I've flown with the McDonald for 6 months. When he feels something, when he says it's not right, I listen to him. If he says that's not right, I'm not firing. He says, well, if you disobey an order and he's disobeying an order, that's 2 or more people disobeying a direct order. That is mutiny. I'll have you both not only court-martialed, that's life in prison or firing squad. He said, I'm serious. I'm going to take you guys up on charges. I said, sir, you do whatever you want to do to us. And a part of me going, my gosh, I mean, it's okay for me, but this guy's listening to me. I better be right. You know what I mean? So I told him, I said, sir, why don't you make a pass? I have my machine gun ready. If it is what you think it is, they start to fire, look like they're going to do something, I'll fire back. I got no problem. Okay, great. So we make a pass. We go down, and you know what we see? A priest, Catholic priest in the front, with 30-some children from the village. They're all carrying gardening tools, going to the community garden. Hose, rakes, shovels. They're all in black because that's what, the kind of clothes they wear. And the priest was wearing a black robe. And I'm going, and the pilot just says nothing, right? Nothing. I couldn't see, but just the back of his head. I could imagine his face was white. But had I been fearful of getting a court martial or my gunner friend, there'd have been 30 some children killed plus a priest. Now that, I don't know what church you go to, but that's got to be at least a cardinal sin, right? You kill priests, that's pretty bad. You kill kids, that's not so good either. That would have changed my life trajectory forever, plus everybody in that aircraft. And I could have sat back and said, he threatened me with court martial. I had to do it. But see, I don't fall back on that. That's why the Nazis saying I was only following orders, right? In the military now, I'm only following orders. I don't believe in that. And this is what gets me in trouble with some military people in the military, because there is time and place to say no. There is time and place, but you better be right. You better be right. You can't just decide, well, no, you better be right. I just felt right. It was interesting, but after that, he became the greatest friend of mine. The pilot was really, the major became a real good friend, was really nice to me, never pulled rank again. I think he must have realized how close he came to ending his career and then messed up his, hell, he would have been in jail. So, that's pretty bad. So anyway, so Vietnam was a lot of different experiences like that. And then there was some beautiful things happen. It was a month, I don't remember what month it was, but I just got, I think it must have been April or May. I was shot down 3 times that month. I was wounded once. I was almost captured. I was nominated for a Silver Star, got a Purple Heart, got a Distinguished Flying Cross, got a couple air medals. 3 weeks. So it was a lot of action in 3 weeks, right? My commanding officer brings me in and he goes, "Hey, Mac," says, "I'm looking at all this stuff here." He says, I think you need a rest. I go, "Oh, I'm good." "No, you need a rest. Take one of these flights, leaving out here today. We got a flight going up to Nha Trang. Beautiful place if you want to go see it." Yeah, I'd like to go see it. "Take off for a week. Come back when you feel rested." I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, go." So I never, it's a free vacation, right? So I get on a helicopter and I leave Phu Loy. We fly several hours. We go up to Nha Trang. Nha Trang is this town along the Riviera of Vietnam. It's beautiful white beaches, beautiful weather. It used to be then when the French were there, it was like a resort town. Beautiful, like the Riviera. And I wanted to see it again. I was there briefly when I first came to the country. I saw it. It has a beautiful Buddhist temple on top of this hill. And in fact, the temple was, the statue of Buddha was so big that the temple was under the statue. It was really cool. So you could fly a helicopter around the statue. It was just neat. So I go into this little town and I don't take any weapons, pistol, rifle, nothing. I take a camera. Little food, some clothing, money, that's it. And I don't stay on the base. There's a base there and it's got barbed wire, watchtower, sandbag, and, gun turns, got the whole thing, right? Because at night the VC are out, I don't stay there. I get off at the base there and I walk out of the base and I go about 5 miles away from the base into the town. And I go rent a room from this lady, this Vietnamese lady. I'm looking around, I'm the only Westerner there in this whole section of town. And at night, I'm the only one there. And you can hear gunfire at night and stuff. They're fooling around at night, but I was young and feeling like nothing was going to hurt me. But I was wound up. I was really tight. I couldn't sleep for days. That's why my commanding officer wanted me to have a rest. He says, "You really need a rest." Nobody can endure all that in 3 weeks and not need an R&R. So go and rest. So I got the room, and the lady that rented me the room, the woman, I told her, I says, "Look, I don't want any visiting women coming here, girls, nothing. I just want to rest. I don't want nothing else. Leave me alone." Boom. "Oh, yeah. I understand. So I'm in there and I'm trying to rest. I can't sleep. And there's a knock at the door. Bum, bum, bum. I'm thinking, I told her not to send me anybody. And I open the door and there's this most beautiful, it looked like half Vietnamese, maybe half French, but ebony, skin so white. Very youthful, probably young 20s woman. She's got a pair of short pants on and she's got a tank top on, long black hair. And I'm standing at the door and I said, go away. I don't want nothing. Go away. And I just walk away, leave her. I'm laying on my bunk and door shut. I thought she left. So I'm laying there. Next thing you know, I got hands on my back, massaging my shoulder. Like, I don't want anything. I'm not going to pay you anything. I don't, nothing. So she's massaging. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling so relaxed. And then, of course, being a 21-year-old guy, obviously, I'm going, well, this is kind of interesting. And maybe. And as soon as I had that thought, not pure thought at all, it all disappeared. There was no hands on my shoulder. There was nothing. I'm going, wow, this beautiful angelic being was massaging me. And then all of a sudden, nothing, right? So I open the door and it's still locked. And I go outside and there's somebody sitting at the end of the hallway. And I go, where'd that girl go? What girl? Well, the girl that came in my room. Nobody came by here. So I went and saw the lady that ran me in the room. She says, nobody visited you. We didn't send anybody. So there I was when nobody saw her. Nobody sent her. But she came to my room. And when I shut the door, she didn't open it. And massaged me. And up until I had a lustful thought, I was in this blissful state. But I went to sleep and I rested. It was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So there was just neat stuff that was happening in Vietnam if you're open to it. I met a couple of guys. I met this guy when I was meditating in Sacramento at the Self-Realization Fellowship Center there, a guy named Lee Davis. And he told me a story where him and his buddy were on this rice paddy. He was in, I think, the 9th Infantry or 25th, I think it was 9th. And they're getting shot at by a machine gun. And they're on this open field. They got no place to hide. And they're running. And I can't remember his friend's name. We'll call him Leroy just for the heck of it. But so him and Leroy are running. They're getting shot at. And he's thinking, my God, help me. Boom. Next thing you know, he's about 100 yards away behind a tree. He's instantly transported there. And he's, like, what? And then his next thought is, help Leroy. And then Leroy's behind the tree. Now you explain that one, right? It's like, he told me that story. He says, I've never told anybody this. He told me that story and I go, wow. I mean, that's truly amazing, really. And then he told me a little later on, he goes, we were camping and at night we were on patrol and there was a couple hundred guys, big patrol. They're out there maneuvering. And at night they'd form a circle, everybody facing outward. You lay down sleeping, every other man sleeping, every other man with his rifle ready, awake, supposedly. A lot of guys drift off, but there's people awake. And every 2 hours, you're supposed to wake up the other guy next to you, and then you go to sleep. So he's laying there, supposed to be sleeping, and all of a sudden he says it was the quietest quiet he ever heard. It was so quiet that he heard ants moving in the sand next to his head. He heard footsteps of ants. He's going, well, that's really quiet, right? I go, what? He says, no, that's only part of it. He says, so I sat up and I looked around and every other guy was looking up at the sky, just staring. And just staring. So he goes, what's going on? The guy goes, it was this UFO that was hovering over us about 100 feet up. He goes, pfft. So he asked a bunch of other guys. They all said, he went to the other side of the circle. Everybody, all the guys were awake, saw this, whatever it was, this vehicle, circular vehicle, hovering over this 200 guys that were down below on the ground. With lights going, flashing, and this whooshy sound for a long time. They didn't know how long. And then gone. And I thought that was kind of an odd story. I go, that's interesting. That's kind of odd. And then I met a guy that was a full bird colonel, one of the first graduates of the what's those guys called? Marine flyers with Top Gun. He was one of the first graduates of the Top Gun school. And he was flying missions over North Vietnam. And he's there with his wingman and they're flying. And all of a sudden he's not too far from Hanoi. And he looks out there and there's this vehicle that's right in front of him. And then it's going, you know, erratic moves all over the place. And faster he goes, faster it goes. Never could catch it, right? And he looks at it and he goes, so he calls into his aircraft carrier, whichever aircraft carrier he's on, he calls the control tower and says, whatever his call sign was, he says, hey, we got a unidentified bogey out here. We, you know, and he describes it. And he was told, he says, just a minute. And his commanding officer comes on and he says, seriously, do you want to reconsider reporting this incident? Just thinking about your career. Oh, but do follow it. See what happens, right? So they didn't want him to officially report it, right? So he followed it all the way to Cambodia. And it kept, it all went. The same guy, he wrote a book, Angel on My Wing. He's dead now. And he gave me the book to read. He says, oh, read this. He says, did you find out why I wrote it, Angel on My Wing? I said, okay. Because he's a real tough Marine. So there's all these real tough stories in there. Take it to this one couple pages. He's getting shot down over North Vietnam. And his aircraft is in really bad shape and everything. And he's trying to figure, getting ready to eject. And he looks out on his wing. And there's a tiny angel, a little girl, sitting on his jet flying, you know. He looks out there and there's an angel on his wing. So that's the last thing he saw before he ejected, right? So he ejects. Now he tells me, he says, okay, Bill. And I says, now fast forward. This was a number of years ago. He says, fast forward to the last couple of years. Just my 3-year-old granddaughter comes over. We're sitting one day and she's talking to me. And she's, somehow that was in the war came up or something. She says, oh yeah, I was there with you the time you got shot down, Grandpa. I was sitting on your wing before I was born. So he tells me the story and he gets teary-eyed and choked up. And I'm thinking, there's no lie here. There's no room for, I mean, the guy was just, and his granddaughter just wouldn't make up something like, she knew nothing about that story. She knew nothing about that story. I don't think he even told us to share with his wife or anybody. She's the only one that knew about it. So Vietnam, a war zone, lots of war zones, whether it's World War II, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's the Days of War. I meet people all the time that in a life or death situation where it's really just, boom, you know, it's, you could be dead tomorrow, this minute. You put your trust and faith in God. You open up your heart chakra. You're closer to the spirit than you probably ever will be, except in the deepest of meditation. I've had people tell me that it was a guy, Richard, another full bird colonel, or lieutenant colonel maybe. Richard was on a patrol. It was nighttime. And he had to go on a patrol, but unfortunately, this patrol he's on was like a full moon out. Oh my God. So they're walking across the field. There's 3 guys or 4 guys. And all of a sudden they hear VC, Viet Cong, smoking and talking and walking kind of loudly, coming right at him. They could see the lighted cigarettes. And so they're looking around. You know, his friends hide behind a tree or something. He's out in the middle of nothing. It's just him. So he crouches down. And he's crouching down going, Lord, don't let him see me. Don't let him see me. It's a full moon. He can see them right on. He can see their bodies and everything else. And he looks up and he sees his mother praying for him for protection. If VC come, they're smoking and talking, smoking, and they walk right by him. Inches from his knees, inches from his head, just inches. And he's just sitting there. And they leave, and he's going. So later on, he gets a letter from his grandmother or his mother. and she said something about she was praying for him, and she figured out the date and the time, and with the time zone difference and everything, it was the exact moment that that patrol was walking by that his mother was praying for him. What's the odds, right? So that story's not alone. I've talked to POWs that had interesting experiences. I've talked to other people. I've talked to people in this present war where they see angelic beings. They follow their intuition. So it's like with all of us, life is a battlefield. It's life or death. You don't know if you're going to be alive tomorrow. You don't know if this is your last breath. So if you open your heart chakra up and you're there to serve and you love, even love your enemies. If you go out there with hate, anger, fear, these experiences don't happen. You're in a whole different level of plane. So, anyway, that was kind of Vietnam just in a nutshell. There was a lot more that happened, but just kind of give you an idea that not all saints and sages are in the churches and temples. There's some out there in the battlefields of life, in real battlefields.